This is the podcast exclusively for association executives and members. Each week, Jeff interviews association executives about their victories, igniting new ideas for you to create greater value for your members. And now, Jeff Tippett.
You're listening to Victory by Association. I'm your host, Jeff Tippett. Welcome to episode 12 with Sydney English.
Hi.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Tippett. I'm grateful that you've joined us for today's episode of Victory by Association. Today's show is brought to you by Targeted Persuasion, Public Affairs, and Communications. When your association has a policy prescription you're trying to advance or stop, you need the power of targeted persuasion, building a successful grassroots campaign designed to move legislators and other elected officials. When you need to win, you need targeted persuasion. Learn more at targetedpersuasion.com and check out our show notes for the link. Well, I'm excited today to welcome Sydney English to the show. Sydney, welcome.
Hi, Jeff. It is really great to be here. I'm excited. We have friends in common, so it's fun to connect with other entrepreneurs, and I'm enjoying reading your book. So.
Fantastic. So I have someone actually from the same town, Raleigh, and we have mutual friends. That doesn't happen very often. So this is a rare treat. I'm excited.
Great.
So tell us a little bit about, we're here to share association victories. I know you've done some incredible work in foster care. And if you would just give us a quick nutshell view here of exactly what the work has been.
Sure. Well, kind of a couple of angles. Years ago, I became aware kind of more of the foster care system as a guardian ad litem through the junior league. That was my junior league placement. Fast forward, busy schedule, active kid at home, own my own business, and my aunt, who is just one of my best friends in the world, as well as my business mentor, is involved in a really amazing program called Fostering Bright Futures, which is a program within Wake Tech, where I'm also lucky to have several really great friends, one of whom, Stephanie Lake, is the foundation, one of the fundraisers within the foundation, one of the anchors of that program. And so she's also engaged in this. And so a couple of years ago, I got the opportunity to work with my aunt on just the best Christmas party ever that she has spearheaded, so that the young adults in this program, who many of whom may not have grown up with, a traditional holiday setting, or getting, Christmas presents under the tree, or waking up to that on Christmas morning, are given really just this amazing night with a wonderful dinner, with entertainment, and then very often everything that might be on their wish list. It's there's not a dry eye in the room when this program is going on every December. And it's ironic that we're talking, because July 1st is when the program launches its fundraising campaign for this aspect of the program.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to jump into a lot of details about that in just a second here. But before we do, Sydney, one of the fun things I love to do is to ask my guests something unique or interesting or a little bit different about them that most people won't know. Something they won't find on your LinkedIn profile, but maybe something you love, maybe something about your background, or maybe it's just something that most people don't know. This is a great, fun space to talk about that.
Sure. I love to travel. Did not travel a lot as a kid or as a young adult, but that's a shared love with my husband and my daughter. And so my husband and I have now been to 5 continents. Our daughter, we're working on bringing her up to speed on that. And on 3 of those continents, we've been hiking, and we'll finish. We're going to add hiking to both Europe and Asia this year, because we're going to Everest Base Camp in December, and then we're hiking at Mont Blanc in August of this year. So it's a lot of fun to see all parts of the world, but it's even better when it's high up on a mountain.
Outstanding. I love traveling as well, but I feel like I'm so far behind what you've done there. That's exciting. Well, talk to us a little bit about a victory, a little bit about a success. Our show here, our audience is association executives, and what we like to do is share association victories or wins or things that have happened, hopefully there to spark some ideas with our audience, and maybe take their cap off and help them to think a little differently, or just to introduce them to a different concept. Share with us a little bit, if you will, about an association, Victory or Excess, that you have participated in.
Do you mind it being in the context of being a small business owner? Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Well, it's actually really opportune because it ties into so much of what you write about. And an interesting article that you currently have up on your website. So my husband and I own two businesses together. He is an executive in the pharma industry, so he works in that during the day, but obviously there's a lot of collaboration that goes on outside of that. I run the day-to-day of both businesses, and we could not be greater polar opposites, like real polar opposites. And it's been an ongoing battle and real struggle to find a way to communicate with each other, to hear each other, to talk through things. And I'd say that this year has been one of the toughest that we've had, both in our professional and our personal relationship. And the past month, we had some real challenges with one of our businesses, and it took us taking a step back, getting back to so much of what you talk about, like remembering to treat the other person as a person and to listen to them and connect on that level of like the love language, and to listen to what they're wanting and needing to hear and to be appreciated for, and then also to make your expectations and your needs clear as well. And it's been some really intensive work, but it's been really transformative. And I think it's also something that's been important for our daughter to see. She's 15, and she's even commented on, wow, you and dad are actually talking to each other right now and really communicating. And we hope that, doing some of that intensive work can set a great example for her, but also really help us keep our businesses on track and moving forward where we want them to go.
Well, let me say thanks for checking out the blog and reading my book. That's awesome. I really appreciate you doing that. And this is my heart, is communication, helping people understand how to communicate and communicate well. And we do have a series up right now. We're doing a look at 10 different presidents, and we're looking at traits that they had of leadership using persuasive communication. And this current one is around LBJ. And we do talk a lot in this about how we communicate with other people, the respect, and how we work one-on-one with each other. And that's huge in the association world as well. We not only have issues with staffing and working with staff people, but we also have the communication issues that happen with those people that are part of our association and keeping all the communication flowing. And it's interesting that most people, when they say, hey, what's the biggest problem your business has or company has? Often communication is at the top. It may not be number one, but it's at the very top of the issues that companies are facing, but they oftentimes don't find the solutions to get there. So let me ask you this: in communication and working through things here with your business, what were some of the barriers or obstacles that you, and in this particular case, we're talking about your spouse, but what are some particular barriers that you guys faced in communication?
Well, we both communicate very differently. He is very measured and very specific, and likes lots of structure, lots of plans. And I am, I would probably be better suited to be like a floor trader on Wall Street, because I'm the frenzied one, and the like, let's do this and let's do that and let's do this, which is something I really struggle with, because there's the day in of your businesses that you have to, that infrastructure, that foundation. And I will get incredibly excited and caught up on, but we could do this and we could do this and we could do this, and Warren will have to come back and say, but have you paid the light bill? And so it's something that we've struggled with personally. We've very often are kind of in different places as to how we're handling the current moment, but we have the same end game. And it can be hard some days in the day in and out of your business operations. We have one business that's pretty mature now, so we're at a point with its life cycle where we're really looking to the future for it and sort of what's that next decade looking like. And then we have one that's really in its infancy. And so managing the very, very different needs of, the operations of those businesses, the staffing of those businesses, the customer service expectation of that can be a big, big struggle. And finding, working through those barriers, finding that language. And one of the things is, and it may sound kind of like new agey or trite or whatever, but I really took time to stop and start, like, instead of spouting off, writing my thoughts down and refining my thoughts. And then Warren and I sit down and we'll talk through those things. And it makes us have a much more measured, calculated conversation that he's really responsive to. And then because I like to talk a lot, my mind kind of runs a million miles an hour, it keeps me focused and on point. And we just keep circling back to, we're in this partnership on both these levels for a reason, because there's tremendous mutual respect. There's a lot of love, and we both have the same end game.
Yeah.
You have to keep in mind with those. And it's one thing that I was reading some about your LBJ blog. I think he's a really complex, interesting person. And your focus on that he knew people. He knew what their kids liked, the wife's name, and all of that. And it can be easy in a intimate relationship, like with your spouse, to forget kind of what they like and who they are. And so we try to keep circling back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I talk in one of the series here is coming to the table with a well thought out message, understanding exactly what it is you want to say and removing all the emotion from all of that. And it is interesting, like, to hear your story here of how, you're here and your spouse is here, and coming together, the two skill sets are probably really complementary. They help each other out. I have the same situation with my spouse where I am much more measured. I like to have a plan on what's going on, and my spouse is much more spur of the moment and just like not scheduled, not planned or whatever. But there's a really happy medium when we can find that and stay comfortable in that. And the same thing happens like in our association life or working with other people. Their skill sets are going to be different. And that's what we want. The last thing that I need in my life is another Jeff. I mean, one of me is more than enough. We don't need any more of me. We need other people with different skill sets. So fantastic. I love how we've talked about communication. And again, thanks for reading the book and checking out the blog as well. I know that when we talked earlier today, you mentioned some about your association superhero volunteer, and you even talked a little bit about your mom, because your mom helped pull you into a lot of this work. So maybe give us a little shout out here, a 30-second shout out to your association superhero volunteer.
Sure. Well, my mom definitely ropes me into a lot of fun things. The person I was talking about, though, is kind of my second mom, who is my Aunt Doris Hubner. And Doris is just a powerhouse. She and her husband, so she's my dad's youngest sister, and she's always been a real force in my life, force for good and inspiration. And she's the one who introduced me to this program on a much more, like involved, engaged level. I was aware of it again because I, have been involved with Wake Tech and some different projects, but she's the one who really had the drive to get this Christmas program focused and going, and to see her work her magic starting at about, late September, early October. She can convince anyone to donate anything or to fundraise anything. And when you're in a room of, 15 to 20 adult students who have grown up in foster care and have not had the experience of people really listening to, what they might dream of having or want to do, and someone gets a television, or someone gets gifts for their kids, or they get, a new backpack, or, it's really spellbinding to share that evening with them. And I love one thing that Stephanie Lake shared with me from Wake Tech earlier, is that, you can't change the fact that a child may have been in foster care and grew up without a traditional holiday setting, and sometimes maybe not the warmest of family settings, but we can give them that now. We can make them feel as if they have a family now. And Doris has been just this guru of creating that for this program and for its client base. And it's been pretty amazing to see.
That's fantastic. Well, Cindy, this has been fun catching up and chatting with you today. I really appreciate you being our guest. How can people find you?
Sure. Well, I own two small businesses, like I mentioned. The first is the English Garden Florist. It's in Raleigh, and we're really active on Instagram, so it's English Garden Raleigh. And if you're a big Twitter fan, you can follow me at Flower Girl NC. And then our other business is Two Maids and a Mop. of the Triangle, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook with that as well. And we love to connect with folks. We take what we do with both businesses very seriously. My husband and I are third generation flower shop kids and grew up on Main Street. So we'd love for folks to give us a shout out.
That's fantastic. And we'll add that information there in the show notes as well. Sydney, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening today. My gift to you is a free chapter from my book, Unleashing Your Superpower. This chapter is on messaging and crafting that early stage, simple message that can persuade other people. Get a free copy of that chapter by texting the word persuade to 66866, persuade to 66866. You can also find that in the show notes. And I'll see you all again next week as we discover another victory by association.
You've been listening to Victory by Association with Jeff Tippett. If you've enjoyed, please subscribe, rate, and review. Be sure to check out the show notes for links relating to this episode. For information about becoming a sponsor or guest, please email podcast@jefftippett.com.